All right, we are live today directly from Israel. I'm joined today by Warren Cohn, your media advisor for AMEPA, which is American Middle East Press Association. You're stuck in Tel Aviv, and I'm also joined today by Doron Keidar. You're an IDF Sergeant Major in the Special Mobility Unit under the direct command of the General Staff. You're also a filmmaker and a podcaster. Good day to you, gentlemen. How are you? Let's start with you, Warren. How are you? Where are you located?
I'm at the Crown Plaza on Hayar on the beach in Tel Aviv, and definitely an interesting time to be here.
Yeah, I can imagine. You were just in the bomb shelters, weren't you? You just left the bomb shelters right now?
Yeah, we just had an alert, and I just got out. I'm taking you on a ride with me because when the alarms are off, it's time to to go move about places until the next one.
Yeah, yeah. And you're stuck in Tel Aviv. Actually, you were supposed to be there for a press trip, and you were going back to the United States, but there's no planes leaving, right? So you can't get anywhere.
No, there's no planes leaving. I just got an alert from some Israeli officials that they are they're trying to arrange rescue flights, but no commercial airlines are going to be operating for a long time.
Yeah, I understand. And Doron, you're Sergeant Major Doron in the IDF. You're at the border to Gaza. Good day to you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm actually doing better than where Warren is right now. Ironically, even though we're operating in Gaza, we're outside the target zones of the ballistic airstrikes simply because of our location. We're not in any large civilian, high populated areas. And so, ironically, we're actually in a much safer place right now.
Is it almost like it's calming down in the Gaza situation when all of this is happening with Israel and Iran at the time?
Not at all. Not at all. Last night was a very, very horrible night for the IDF. Yesterday, we had very heavy casualties, mass casualty event, very heavy hit to the IDF operations in Gaza. In addition to, because of this new front with Iran, it's also opening up other fronts, operational fronts in the rest of Israel. So what that also means is essentially the forces are stretched thin, and because of that, it makes the operations much more complicated and much more difficult. And that's again just not to get into any specificities, because I have to be very careful again with what I say, because again we don't want the enemy to know too many things of what we're doing. But all that to say, it is actually very, very difficult right now in Gaza. The operations are very complex, and the enemy is not sleeping on his watch right now. Quite the opposite. They are going full force in their operations, and they are doing damage.
Yeah. What's it like? Are the rockets from Iran also hitting you next to the Gaza border, or is that more located to Tel Aviv areas? I know that horrifically Iran is actually targeting civilian areas in Tel Aviv as opposed to Israel, which is trying to target strategic military areas. But are the missiles, rockets, and drones also hitting you where you are from Iran?
Actually, yes, because they're not just targeting civilian populations; they're actually also targeting military facilities. And so, not too far from us, some of those military infrastructure was targeted. And in addition to, we also have the spill off from the shrapnel of the rockets that are heading towards central Israel or northern Israel that are being intercepted essentially right over our heads. And some of which is what I've also posted online from what we could see through our night vision. Basically, it's like a Star Wars kind of scenario that you're seeing unfolding in front of you.
Yeah, I understand. How about you, Warren? Where are you headed now? Are you going in Tel Aviv somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to Tel Aviv. I've been. I mean, this whole thing is new to me. I was in Israel in March, and I got my first ever warning from the Houthis, and I thought it was a novelty to go into the shelter because I've been here a lot this year, and but I'm after a couple days of it and sleepless nights, I think I got my taste. I'm over it now. I don't think it's gonna end. But when there's breaks in between, you gotta to maintain sanity. It's definitely go for a walk. You gotta get out and go grab something to eat. Say hi to somebody. Obviously, there's the chance, like just happened right now. Like we've been anticipating rockets overnight, and they've mostly been overnight and strategically. That's what Iran, does because they have to fuel them in the dark, and they're less likely to be taken out by the IDF. But they just went in the afternoon right now. I was about to leave, to go out, and that got delayed by an hour. So things are very, very fluid. I will say though that in typical Israeli fashion, it's quieter on the streets, but in typical Israeli fashion, people are in the ocean. In the Mediterranean Sea. They're playing volleyball. I went for a walk to Dizengoff before, people are out and about and doing their thing. Again, albeit in a more, limited, less crowd, but it's very Israeli to be sitting at a bar having a beer and eating a shawarma, when there's an azakat, a red alert. So
Yeah, the Israelis are resilient when it comes to this. But when you're speaking to people, what's like the general atmosphere? Are they afraid, even though they're still like playing volleyball and such? But is there a different kind of fear going on in the community in the city streets?
yeah, I mean, I'll share the video with you after this interview, but there's different extremes, right? Like one extreme, which I thought was amazing. I saw it like 5:15 a.m. There's a Russian guy in a speedo walking down the street, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he asked someone while the red alerts are going on in the background. He's like, "Where's the ocean? The Yam? Like, where's the water?" He just was going for a morning swim, smoking a cigarette in a speedo, didn't give a shit about the red alert. So you have
Oh
like
my God.
that extreme, and then you have like there are tourists here who came for vacation to visit grandkids, to visit family, to have a nice time in the summer in Israel, and like they're terrified. I mean, they're crying and worried and stressed. And I think there's a lot of people in the middle who are just you got to control the controllables, right? Like we do the right thing, listen to the instructions from the home front command, go to the shelter, have contingency plans, be prepared. But I think that's all we can do is be responsible.
Because what is so sad now is that unfortunately, a lot of Israelis have been killed in these attacks by Iran. I don't know what the latest numbers are, but I read somewhere 10 people, 10 casualties in civilian districts in Israel. Could you update us a little bit more about that? Do you have the latest numbers on that?
Doron, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so that was actually mostly from last night. The first barrage, if I remember correctly, I think it was one person died. So the rest of the fatalities was literally from last night's attack. Unfortunately, it was a very, very vicious attack that created some serious damage. I believe it was in Bat Yam, it was in Haifa industrial area. It was in another few other places. I know there was a Arab community that got hit very hard, a Muslim Arab community, to be clear. So yeah, it was a very nasty attack last night, unfortunately, and it did cost some lives. Unfortunately, that's right.
Because these missiles that the Iranians are using, they're quite huge missiles, aren't they? I've seen pictures of them. They're like, these are not small rockets.
Well. Let me explain what I think most people don't understand about the rockets is how they operate, why it's complicated. So it's not one rocket that you're trying to intercept. It's a warhead that splits into several warheads, I guess you could say, that any one of those are going to be the ones that are going to impact. Some of them are dummies. So in other words, it's a smart system that's to counter ground-to-air missile defense systems. So they've actually upgraded their abilities since Israel's upgraded our defenses. So they have something in line to prepare against our defenses.
Yeah, you wanted to add something to that also, Warren?
No, I mean, I wanted to add, like, again, I'm not the military expert here, and I defer very much to you, Doron, and much appreciation and gratitude and for your service and protecting our nation and wearing the uniform. But I read reports last night also, and I think even the visuals, like again, I'm not an expert, but just seeing it, that there were also uses in Haifa and in the Kiryat the night before on Friday night of like first uses of hypersonic missiles, right? Like even you see these ballistic missiles that are going 2,500 miles an hour through the sky, and then you see these hypersonic missiles going at Mach 10x, whatever that, or even Mach 5. It goes by them like they're a turtle crawling down the street. I mean, and they're going 2,500 miles an hour. So I think that's also something really important to note, that not only are they trying to overwhelm the air defense systems, but using this unprecedented technology that's only been tested by militaries. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, Doron, but seeing those missiles go by that fast, like there's almost no way to intercept that.
Yeah, Doron, is
It's
that
not necessarily.
overwhelming the Iron Dome?
Yeah, it's not necessarily the speed, but like I said, the fact that the warhead splits. So, if you're not able to get it in the atmosphere, again, this is not my expertise, but what I've gleaned from some of the guys who are more into that, if you don't intercept it before it enters the atmosphere, and once it gets close enough, then it's nearly impossible to get all of it, because again, they split up into multi warheads, if you like, right? The single rocket. And then now you have multiple rockets that project out of this single guy, and then it makes it much more difficult for the systems that have, like you said, they're going extremely fast. Also, the counter rockets that are basically trying to catch up, and it needs to kind of pick. It's almost like a chess match of which one out of, let's say, the 7, let's say 5 of them are actual warheads. Yeah, because then you're going to have some that are dummies, like I said. And so that's kind of the gamble that you have to take. And still, Israel has actually taken out, if I understand the numbers correctly, it's something like 95% success rate. So really, the ones that have impacted in Israel are a very small number. But again, because these are nasty warheads, they do create some serious damage, as you probably have seen on the news, of the one neighborhood, I think it was in Bat Yam, that was hit very, very hard.
What do you think, Doron, about Iran choosing to target civilian areas specifically as opposed to Israel?
Well, again, they are doing both. It's both civilian and military intelligence, you name it, or high-value targets. So they are doing both. But you're right; it is ugly that they're also the main block of where they're focusing their targets is on civilians. Because think about it this way: they're forcing our hand to. You need to pick: are you going to defend lives of your civilians, or are you going to defend the high value target? Are you going to defend the civilians or the high, right? So it's kind of like they're messing with us, right? The defenders, and making us choose where to put your resources and where to put your bet in when you're trying to defend, because you can't defend it all 100%. Yeah. And that's the reality that we find ourselves in. And it's a dirty trick. It's psychological, both for the civilians and for the defenders, right? For those who are in these ballistic missile defense systems, the ones who are operating these, the Air Force guys. And it's a nasty business, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to psychologically break us down. But like you pointed out earlier here, Warren, Israelis are good at being resilient. We're good at in very nasty situations to make the best of it. And to my knowledge, like you're saying, I don't have a lot of access to the civilian world right at present, but I'm glad to hear that Israelis are still kind of trying to keep some kind of norm and make sanity out of the insanity. So we're doing our best.
Warren,
Well, even the memes.
yeah,
Go ahead. No, I
keep going,
apologize.
keep
No,
going.
I've been seeing like some memes going around that like the rocket alerts are, say like it's now time to go toward now it's a good time to go near a shelter, and like the Israeli dark humor is amazing. Like last night I got this fake alert. It's like now's a good time to make a kaki, right, to go to the bathroom, right, like or yeah, or I'm saying like all
That's good.
these fake alerts that are so.
That's
I just
awesome.
wanted to add that very not helpful point. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Henrik.
No, that's great. That's a
No,
great
sure.
point.
That's good, Warren. I was thinking just about in the U.S. I'm seeing a little bit of mixed messages whether or not the United States wants to go in and directly support Israel militarily in this situation. I read a little bit of different things. Like last night, I read about the U.S. Delta Force perhaps being a part of going in and destroying this underground nuclear facility of Iran. And I've also read Trump saying that no, we won't go in directly militarily. What's the latest on that? Have you gotten any like clear indication of what's going to happen there?
I think that the best lesson that we can learn from the past month or a few weeks with the negotiations and the tactics and rhetoric from the Trump administration and Netanyahu is that we don't really know what's going on. There's way more than meets the eye, and the fact that they were strategically planning and they were greenlit despite the rhetoric, stating the obvious. I mean the opposite. Sorry, I think. Look, my gut tells me that I was saying earlier to a friend, right? The way I look at it is Israel is this. We're in the middle of an operation, right? Like a surgical operation. Israel is the anesthesiologist and the surgeon that opens up. U.S. needs to come in with some B-2 bombers as the expert chief cardiologist, do his expertise and.
Yeah, you were. We lost the signal a little bit there, Warren. I'll go to Doron in the meantime when while you're reconnecting there. Doron, do you know about this? First of all, do you know like the general feel in the U.S. or whether or not the U.S. population would support the United States in helping Israel out? Is there a general feel of wanting to stand by Israel, you think? And also, what do you know, or do you think that the United States will step in militarily?
Is that for Warren or for me?
I can do you now, Doran. Warren, we just lost your signal a little bit, but we can come back to you. I'll just hear Doran's thoughts about this too.
Well, I will say this. I've been very disappointed by the typical conservative right in America as of late, since October 7th, turning very viciously against Israel and also spinning a lot of anti-Semitic libels, like the libels from the Dark Ages, kind of nasty stuff. Israel's behind 9/11. Israel's behind this. Israel's behind that, and just a lot of nasty crap coming from, unfortunately, the camp that I more relate with as far as my politics when it comes to U.S. politics. And so that to me has been very concerning. And I've addressed it some on the podcast. I've also addressed it some on my social media because I want conservatives to be aware of it. And you have to root that junk out of your community, because just like we critique the left and say, why don't they come against the nonsense that they're supporting and whatever, the same is true for us. If you don't come against things within your own camp, and you're allowing these people like Tucker Carlson, like Candace Owens, to just talk smack on national television as if it's fact, that's insane. I mean, like I'll just give an example. Tucker Carlson, for example, pointed out that Qatar is more of an ally to the United States than Israel. Let that sink into any conservative that loves freedom and safety and security. Hello, Qatar is the number one financier of terror in the world. Are you insane? And so so that's one example. Anybody wants to do a deep dive, go for it. But so that's on the one hand. It bothers me, and it's been bothering me how the Trump administration has not been so supportive of Israel, at least vocally. And like Warren, like you were pointing out here a second ago, that it hasn't been an open, we support and we're with you in this effort, and that we're bringing in also the allied forces to come together and do a combined airstrike on Iran, and that's Israel alone, right? And then you find out as an afterthought, the Trump administration is supporting Israel and the attack. They just didn't go about publicly, and it was part of the game they were playing. So I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised to see that as the final action, if you like. But at the same time, the sentiments in America, and again, Warren, you probably know better. You live there. It feels to me like Americans have become very, very cynical towards Israel in a way. Very like they kind of compare us with Ukraine and like, oh, we got to support another crappy war instead of recognizing, no, you need to support Israel's stance against the head of terrorism in the world, and that's Iran, Qatar, and the list goes on. Turkey, Syria under Giuliani, and what's been happening with Afghanistan, the continual financing of terrorism and Al Qaeda and so on in Afghanistan. So Israel's not the enemy. Israel's not fighting for the sake of gain of any kind. We're literally fighting for the survival of the world and ourselves. And that's something that needs to be really drilled in hard into Americans' psyche, because alternative media and unfortunately also mainstream media has been just Israel bashing, and there hasn't been a very loud voice enough, in my opinion, to speak on the counter.
Yeah, Warren, please continue on your train of thought that you had just before we lost your signal as well. Can you hear me, Warren? Let's see if we get Warren with us here. I think we have you lost audio, Warren? Yeah, I think we just let us know, Warren, when you're back online, when you can hear us, because I don't think we have an audio signal from you right now. I think you might be in some kind of radio shadow or something. Just let us know when you're back with us, and we can bring you back in again. Yeah, your audio is muted, I think, Warren. We can't hear you. We'll go to Doron in the meantime. Well, how about if we're talking about different countries than the United States? How do you feel like the support from other countries, like other European countries? Do you feel that kind of support from other places?
Well, Henrik, you know very well from my last visit to Norway what I think about European countries. Your country, unfortunately, being one of the top of the list. And I think Warren will come in here in a minute. It sounds like he's back. Yeah, European countries like Norway, like Sweden, like Denmark, like the list goes on, France, are very, very, very vehemently anti-Israel. As you know, at the heart of Israel's campaign and renewed support from the United States to continue the operations in Gaza, that's when now we have to declare a Palestinian state. Now, when it's run under terrorist regimes, now when the Judea Samaria PA controlled area is under Mahmoud Abbas, who has almost zero support from the Palestinians. And I know this for a fact because I've been interviewing Palestinians personally on the street, asking them, what do you think about Mahmoud Abbas? They said, we hate him. He's a crook. He's a thief. And the whole PA are a bunch of crooks. So they are not supportive of a Palestinian state. The Palestinians. At the same time, ironically, they're also not supportive of Israel. They also hate Israel at the same breath. So it's kind of an irony of an irony, and that's their reality. But it's like the Europeans are trying to shove it down our throats. Well, let's create a Palestinian state. With what leadership? With what kind of control? With what kind of normality for the Palestinians? You know? And it's like they just don't give a crap. All they care about is their anti-Semitic, deep-seated hatred, and they just cannot stand Israel succeeding. And they need to admit it. In my opinion, just say it to their face. And Henrik, you know very well, I've said it as loudly as clearly to your people in Norway on all the platforms that would allow me to speak, including speaking to parliament members and telling them, you guys are full of crap and you need to stop candy coating your anti-Semitism and just accept it for what it is. And I won't be offended. I really will not. In fact, I will appreciate more that you're openly going to tell me what is the reason behind your political animosity towards Israel, really, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, we're living in very strange times here in Norway, by the way. We just had a visit, a formal visit by the Iranian foreign minister here, and he was posing on pictures smiling with our foreign minister, and we were having him in this luxury hotel, flying him in here. And at the same time, that's not enough. At the same time, Norway is officially condemning Israel for attacking Iran. And if that
Yeah.
wasn't enough, they are not condemning Iran for attacking civilian areas in Israel. So it's just an upside down world here in Norway. Warren, do we have you back online? Let's see if your audio and
Yeah, I'm sorry.
is working. Yeah,
It's the reality of transit. I apologize. I
no,
apologize.
that's fine. We can hear you now. Let's continue your train of thought
Okay.
that you had earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
It's a bit choppy again, Warren. The connection is a bit choppy again. I think maybe it'll probably be better when you're at your destination. You're probably in between 4G and 5G
correct.
networks somewhere, so it's a bit choppy.
It is choppy. Can you hear me now clearly, or do you want me to hang?
Now it's a little bit better. Let's try again.
Okay, so I mean, I've been doing a ton of research into it, and obviously, Doron, your answers about America were spot on, but I think that a lot of what you're saying is correct, right? Like we need the anti-Semitism, we need the anti-Semites to just own it, like be clear, be black and white. Like I think that there's throughout America all these I live in Florida, right? Where there's not so much, you don't see it, it's not in your face, but I am from New York, and you go to New York, go to more of these liberal cities, and it's just so in your face. I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, and I accidentally was near Columbia University, and I bumped into that protest. Like I think that there are so many that just don't even, like there's ignorance, there's stupidity, there's so many different things involved with, and these kids are looking for a purpose. But
Yeah, I think we lost your signal a little bit there again.
needs to be clearly
Warren.
defined. Like,
Yeah, we lost him. He's probably going to connect back up. In the meantime, we can do some viewer questions. We're having a lot of viewers here watching now, and please send in questions. We got some questions already. We have from Knut here, who was asking, is it still safe to come to Israel? Well, what will be your response to that, Doron?
To be honest, I mean, normally I would have said during the post October 7th, I would have told people yes, because I think the news kind of blew that out of proportion. The threats from rockets that were coming from Gaza and that kind of thing. But as of late, I would say probably put your flight on reserve. And besides that, I think you're going to have a very hard time accessing Israel anyways, because flights are being canceled all around, except for maybe some emergency flights getting people out. Other than that, I don't think anybody is being allowed in, and the exception of emergency flights for very specific reasons, probably medical, family, that kind of thing. So I would not advise it, simply because all of Israel is under attack, and this is going to be a very ugly next few days here with Iran, until we are finished with the operations and finished with eliminating all of their capabilities towards Israel.
Yeah. And I can imagine it's and a lot of the planes aren't going right. It's like the airport would probably be shut down. Maybe El Al will be flying. They're usually flying through rocket and missile rain all the time.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. What's your plan going to be? Are you on a long session there with the IDF, or how long are you going to stay out working there now in the field?
It is unknown, because essentially we were supposed to operate for the next X amount of days. I can't give specifics.
Yeah.
But whatever our plan was, which was a shorter plan of operations, is very possible can turn into much more. it already has expanded from the original call up that we had. And due to the new reality with the Iran threat, um, basically we are at DEFCON 1. And what that essentially means is we're here for the long haul. So we don't know. We actually don't know how long this is going to take. But we're essentially here until the military sees fit that basically the operations that we're responsible for are completed.
Yeah. We have another question also from Linda. Perhaps not your field of expertise, but she asks, when do you think tourists will be able to get out from Israel? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Get out?
Yeah, or if they're stuck in
I think
Israel.
immediately. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
immediately, and I imagine, again, if you're able to get a hold of the people that are in charge of getting people out of the country, I would speak to El Al representatives, for example. I would speak to the tour company that you're probably toured with to come to Israel. Essentially, they're responsible for you until you get on your flight and you leave the country. So they should be able to assist you and to get you all those questions answered, and you know, and then take it from there.
Yeah. These nuclear weapons that Iran was working on getting, I've been hearing reports that they were quite close to actually manufacturing them. I've heard the measures of like a month or so away. Is that what you've heard also? And what can you tell us about that? These nuclear weapons that Iran was trying to create?
This is probably the main reason why Israel had to perform a preemptive strike. I think a lot of people don't understand that right now is literally the worst time for the government of Israel and the intelligence community, the IDF chiefs of staff, and etc. to make such a call. It's literally the worst time possible to, you know, that, like I said, we're already stretched thin as far as we've been operating now. Most of the combat units and Air Force and basically anyone who's on the tip of the spear of the continued war fighting against Hamas, Hezbollah in the north, Syria, etc. You know, we're stretched thin. We're operating for nearly 2 years now, and it's literally the worst time to do this. But it is a must, because if Israel does not carry out these strikes now, then the red line to when it's too late will be have already been crossed, and then the inevitable would happen. And so, yeah, that's why Israel essentially had to make the to swallow that hard pill, so to speak, now of all times.
What do you think would happen if Iran was actually at a stage where they had operational nuclear weapons? Do you think they would be crazy enough to use them?
Yes, yes, simple, 100%. They're lunatics. They are jihadists. They will stop at nothing to achieve what they essentially what they want is a global jihad that the whole world falls under the House of Islam. And their way of achieving that is through terrorism, through fear, through war, through hell. That's their way of achieving those goals. And yeah, dropping a nuclear bomb is like they wouldn't even give it an afterthought. Not at all. Even that the fact would be that many Muslims would be killed in the process, and for them that would be what they call shahada. You know, that these are the holy warriors for the sake of Allah who died in the process, and it's all good. And it's very similar to some of these other ideologies, like the Nazis, like what we had with Mao Zedong in China. That these are basically death cults that are willing to do whatever it takes for the sake of the cause. In this case, it's also a religious foundation within it, which makes it all the more explosive as far as all logic goes out the window, all humanity and all apathy for human life out the window. It doesn't matter because it's for the sake of God, right? So it's very it's as lunacy as lunacy can be, and that's what these people are, and that's what they're willing to do. So it's not a question.
We're also getting viewer questions here about how is Israel going to be able to take out that deep bunker of that nuclear facility, which is like 100 meters or so underneath the ground. I've been hearing stories about Israel needing those kinds of U.S. bunker busters that are able to dive so deep into the ground that they're actually able to blow it up from the inside, or perhaps using the U.S. Delta Force. I've been reading also. Could you expound upon those two different options, perhaps starting with the U.S. Delta Force? What is that? What is the Delta Force to people who don't know?
Okay, so U.S. Delta Force is basically the tip of spear of the United States military capability. It's the tier one, the top of the top, the cream of the crop of all special forces in the United States. They're the best of the best, bar none. So essentially what it means is the pool of people that they collect come from every background of the military, first of all, including Navy, including Air Force, including all the different branches. You have Navy SEALs that were SEAL Team 6, which is the tier one unit within the SEAL teams, and they are what's considered to be like the closest equivalent to Delta. And so imagine the people who go there, it's about, I would say, like 10% out of the SEALs make it into Team 6 that try out of rough numbers. Out of Delta, it's like the same thing, but out of all of the military, of the best, including of SEAL Team 6 guys that will try out for Delta. So essentially, it is the bottom line, the best warfighters with years of experience, decades, many of them have decades of experience, that are given the most sensitive operations the U.S. Military or government, the Department of Defense and the Special Operations Command, that they will utilize in the most covert, most secretive missions that no one else can carry out. They're the ones that do it. So Mission Impossible, it's those guys.
Would they be able to, you think, go down into that kind of a nuclear bunker and destroy it from within?
Without giving tradecraft secrets, I will say they will definitely have a solution. They definitely will have a solution, and they're not the only ones that will have a solution. Remember, Israel has also very similar capabilities. Not to down talk Delta, by the way, at all. I mean, I have equal respect and honor for our equivalent tier one units. Some of them from the Mossad that you have seen exposed online. Normally, we don't talk about those things, but because it got publicized, I can now talk about it. But that's a perfect example of the fact that we have people with boots on the ground in Iran, and we're also letting Iran know it while we're carrying out targeted assassinations and other covert operations within country. Let's just say that Delta can do that, and probably plus some. And together with other teams, other units, and capabilities, you can do quite a lot. It doesn't have to be just an Air Force response. There are a lot of tools within there are a lot of tools in the toolbox to utilize that can be just as devastating and will get the job done.
What would be the equivalent tier one groups in Israel? What kind of forces are we talking about there?
Well, everybody has probably heard of Matkal. Less have heard of the Mossad special units. Less have heard of Shabak's special units. Less have heard of, let's say, the Air Force's special unit, Shaldag. And then, of course, you also have the Naval Commando Unit, the Special Naval Commando Unit, Shaita Chlosre, or our equivalent to the Navy SEALs. So we actually have a few units, and a few of them that essentially do have tier one what you would consider a tier one capability. We don't call them tier one. The difference is that unlike, let's say, Delta, where you have the multi capabilities within one unit, ours are the multi, but each unit has that specialty, and that's their main lane, that they're in, and it's a combined effort between those different operators and units that we conduct our missions with that achieve the mission, and then some of which we take part of in the role that we play. So that's kind of the difference, is that everyone kind of specializes in their specialty, whereas Delta is going to have more an in-house, all in a much bigger budget, to say the least. So I hope that makes sense
Well,
to people that don't understand. Maybe, and again, I'm trying to be very careful not to give away,
yeah.
you know, tradecraft, or what do we call it, the secrets of how we operate and what we do.
Yeah, definitely. I know, I appreciate it. It's so interesting for us that don't know this from the inside, to be able to learn a little bit about these different words and these different forces that are doing this. Well, by the way, why do you think that Israel is actually revealing the imagery of these forces, revealing the imagery of and the videos of the Mossad special forces, while, as you say, that these are actually clandestine forces that are usually not so exposed to the public? Is there a reason for that, you think, to be able to be so public about it?
Yes, it's essentially to send a message to the enemy: we have these capabilities, and it's to give them it's essentially to give them the finger. It's to give them the diplomatic finger of up yours. um, you know, we can reach you anywhere, any place, anytime. To use the cliche of the Prime Minister of Israel and the IDF spokespersons, division, and all that use that cliche statement. But essentially, that's the message that the state of Israel is trying to publicly make to our enemies. And anything that you're going to see publicized isn't going to be tradecraft secrets. It's just letting you know we were there and giving you like an angle, right? It's not giving you the how. It's not giving you which specific capabilities we have, what technology, and so on. And so it's only just to let you know. It's to give you like a wink, so to speak, and it like to be cheeky. But it's also very strategic and very specific towards our enemies. That's what the state of Israel wants to do. Okay, there are people like myself and others who prefer the silent professionals way of life. And in a way, it's a counter. I'm countering myself, because here I am, very public, on a very public platform with the work that I do. And the reason why I do it, if you want to know, like for my personal reasons, which is obviously has nothing to do with government or military representation, it's completely independent. My goal is to actually give a nod to those folks that do the dirty work, so to speak, that you and I and all of us don't get to see on the daily in our homes. We don't know of the hard work of people that are out in the field, literally doing some of the most nasty missions that you can imagine, going through some of the hardest trials to achieve those goals for our safety, for the nation of Israel, and for the world. And so for me, it's to highlight them, and for me, looking from the side and seeing how other special forces communities in America and Europe do put an emphasis on social media for their units, because they're better at PR. Then I simply just took an example from them and decided I'm going to try to highlight these special operators without, again, giving the secrets of what we do and how we do, and just to give honor to these people that I have the honor to work with on so many missions. And it's really for me just to give them a big salute of, you guys are amazing, and I want the world and the nation of Israel to know these are your warriors, these are your defenders. And in another, on the second hand, it's also to let the enemy know that we are not afraid, and we have our warriors that will stand on guard 24/7. We will not back down. The lions of Judah are going to be fierce, and that we will defend our cubs, if you like, our lionesses at home, and that we are our fearsome nation. We are the Maccabees of today that will not bow down to the knee of tyranny and terrorism.
Amazing. And also the other option, we talked about the U.S. Delta Force perhaps going in. Of course, I don't know this. I've just been reading about it in the news that was one option. And another option is perhaps using bunker busters, U.S. bunker busters, to destroy these Iran nuclear facilities. What can you tell us about that possible option? I've understood that Israel actually don't have these kinds of these heavy, super heavy bunker busters that the U.S. has.
What I will tell you is that Israel will get what it needs to get the job done. And if the technology is out there, if the capability is out there, and if we've started this mission, we will complete it. This isn't a threat. This isn't a punch you in the nose and run away to the bully. It's we're going to pound you until you are no longer a threat. So Israel will achieve its goals, and irregardless of what the media says, and irregardless of what we can and cannot say, what I will tell you is Israel will end this fight, and we will end it on top. We will end it in a win, and it will be a decimating end to the tyranny that has been raining terror on the world and on the Iranian people. Let's not forget, our fight is not against the Iranians. If anything, our desire, and my personal desire, is to see the Iranians freed from the tyranny and reign of hell that they've been held under since 19 was it 70 19 wait 19 oh shoot
79? Yeah, I think
79
79. Yeah, yeah.
79. Thank you. I got a little dyslexia here, and of course, with sleepless nights with the latest
Yes.
rain of ballistic missiles, hasn't made it easier to to do this interview. But yes, so from imagine since essentially since 1980s, right? From the beginning of the 1980s, leading up till today, Khomeini took over, came in from France. It just decimated the country that used to be a flourishing, free country like any other country in the world. And today it's a country where people live under extreme fear, extreme poverty. I just saw a Christian pastor. I don't know if this is true or not, but he was sharing personal messaging from an Iranian to him, saying, "We know that Israel is attacking. We know that Israel's not our enemy. We know that the Iranian regime is the enemy, and we are very aware of that." And they said that we work like the minimum wage for a month's pay in Iran right now is $100, right? And basically explaining how much that stretches, how thinly that stretches within their economy in Iran. Basically, people are they're depressed. Many are taking drugs, right? So then you also have a drug addiction to topple on top of that. The people are not happy. The people are under extreme pressure, extreme hatred towards anyone who doesn't line up with the Iranian Guard and Khomeini's standard, if you like, of what Iran should be. And it's very sad. And many people there are just miserable, beyond miserable. And so that's my hope. And I hope the world also understands Israel is not targeting them. Israel does not want to target them. Israel wants to set them free. And of course, most importantly, though, not to forget, our people are number one. They come first. But we haven't put the Iranian people as an afterthought in any means.
Yeah, we've been seeing also footage and videos of people in Iran actually celebrating Israel attacking the Ayatollah and these oppressive forces that Iran is actually towards their people, and the people in Iran is celebrating this. And of course, as you say, Israel has nothing against the Iranian people. Israel wants to free the Iranian people, I think, and that's what we're seeing also in the surgical attacks by Israel in Iran. They're not targeting civilian areas. They're not targeting places where people live as opposed to Iran. But I've also been seeing footage today that in Tehran, actually, Iran is placing their surface to air missiles in between houses and residential buildings within Tehran. What can you tell us about that? What's your comment about actually placing these kinds of surface-to-air missiles in there, in between residential areas?
Well, it goes right back to what I told you about their ability to use a nuclear warhead on the Middle East here, right? And the spill out effect of how so many millions of Muslims within the state of Israel would be killed, not to mention those Muslim nations surrounding us. The same is for their own country. They are a suicidal regime. This is a death cult, and they will sacrifice their people, just like Hamas, just like Hezbollah, for the sake of their cause. So they, if you like, they invented the wheel, not Hamas and not Hezbollah. Those terror groups learned it from Iran, and they're simply implementing what they've already taught all the terror groups that we're fighting here in Israel, that's threatening the state of Israel, either from Lebanon or from Gaza or from Judea, Samaria. So it's no surprise. It really is no surprise. And again, that's exactly why the Iranian people, who are sane, thank God, unlike the Palestinians who have been under a brainwashing from day one, thanks to the United Nations school system that allows terrorist propaganda to be taught in the school system. So these children are brainwashed from zero. Thankfully, in Iran, it's not like that. The mass control of the thought, if you like, or the propagandizing of the people isn't as successful. So the majority of the people do not support it, do not want it. Unlike, for example, in Gaza, they supported the terror tunnels to come out of their homes and their daughter's bedroom. They supported the terror tunnels to come into the mosque and into the schools and into the hospitals that we've seen. They supported using their people as human shields. And just the other day, for example, in Gaza, I saw for the first time in my operations a family that was caught in between in the war zone area that the IDF was guarding, that the IDF soldiers was guarding and protecting, because the family member, the father said, if they get released and if we send them towards the humanitarian area, that they will be killed by Hamas. So we had a dilemma. What do you do, right? No military in the world has been facing anything like this, where the terrorist groups are using the civilian people, and that the civilian population is supporting that, like in Gaza. In contrast, though, in Iran, it's not like that to that extreme, and thankfully. So the people know they're being used as human shields, and they're not about it. They don't want it, but they don't have a say in the matter. Unlike the Gazans, where again they're very much supportive of it, and it's very sad, and it puts us in many hard dilemmas as warfighters in the battlefield.
Yeah, we have hundreds and hundreds of people watching and listening right now. And guys, feel free to ask questions on YouTube, X, or Facebook to Doron here from the IDF. We have one question here from Robert asking if Israel destroys the nuclear facilities in Iran, are they able to detect the nuclear leaks, radioactive fall downs, or such if and when these facilities are destroyed?
I honestly don't know. That's above my pay grade. I am not a nuclear facility expert of any kind, not even very basic, and so I have no clue. It's a good question.
Yeah. What's the latest, by the way? You're at the Gaza borders for people just tuning in right now. You're located at the Gaza border. What is the latest with your fight against Hamas? Are you able to say something about how much of Hamas is decimated? Are there any percentages like 10% of Hamas are still there? Is there any kind of percentages like that? Would you have any idea?
Yeah, I would estimate that we're nearing 90% elimination of all Hamas operatives. So we don't have very much left, but the little small numbers that are there are still very, very effective in asymmetric warfare, guerrilla warfare against the IDF operations, and they still have masses of tunnel systems that they are using for the benefit of attacking us and hitting us still in very devastating ways. Um, so that is the reality right now in Gaza, that the majority of Hamas, of their leadership, etc., they have been destroyed. They have been eliminated. Um, but again, it is very difficult still yet to eliminate that small number of operators when they're literally still using the rubble of the airstrikes of what's left from the urban infrastructure. They're still using the humanitarian corridor. They essentially go into those humanitarian areas and act like civilians, because they drop their weapons, or they'll hide their weapons in their clothing, because no one's checking them. Okay, for the world to understand, nobody is checking who within these humanitarian areas is a humanitarian, is a civilian looking for safety, shelter, food, etc. There's nobody checking them. Okay, there's nobody. There's no checks and balances. So imagine that's what I'm up against. That's what the IDF is up against in conducting our operations. And so we have to do a lot of very complex work. And I can tell you, you're going to see the fruit of some of the operations we've been conducting as of late in the next, hopefully within the next few days. We're going to see some very good results, some of which we already have seen, and that's the return of the latest hostage remains of the hostages that were returned to us in the last few weeks now. That is some of the success of the operations we're conducting to finally put an end to Hamas's control in the Gaza Strip.
That's amazing work. It's great that you're doing that. What can you tell us about these uprisings that we've seen by some brave souls on in the Gaza area, actually demonstrating against Hamas and trying to use their voice and speak up against Hamas? Do you know something about that? Has it had like any effect, and also what has happened to those people? I'd imagine it's mortally dangerous to do that and demonstrate against Hamas in Gaza, risking their own lives doing it.
Yeah, I would say it's to be taken with a grain of salt, any of those kind of videos that go out on social media, because essentially Hamas controls most of all the social media that goes out. They essentially control internet, because how do you think the information gets out? Because remember, Israel is holding them hostage and they just can't do anything, right? That's what the media narrative is. But no, they have electricity, they have food, they have water, they have everything they need, including internet, to get their messaging out. And so it's very questionable of anything that gets out. First of all, there is true reporting, true resistance from locals and local counter militias, if you like. Basically families of the local militias other than Hamas that are now giving a fight back against Hamas, and essentially trying to take control of the food supplies that Hamas is stealing, and they're trying to give it to the people. So it's like Robin Hood. It's ironically a modern day Robin Hood scenario playing out, but within an Islamic context, and it's just a very interesting reality. Because you hear the story, of course, as a European, you know the story very well. Especially, I know with my Swedish family, they love the cartoon version. It's a classic in our home. But the irony is it's a real story panning out in today's modern times within Gaza through these militia groups, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get their hands on the aid. They're trying to get their hands on any of the water and any supplies that basically controls the masses, and they're trying to break the control of Hamas because they're sick and tired being pawns within Hamas's death cult that's leading the strip of land of Gaza that's leading it to absolute destruction, and what we're seeing that's happening today because of the IDF having to go in and operate and to eliminate that threat. So I'm very thankful for those groups. I hope them and wish them much success against Hamas. And I also hope that they're smart enough to know as well not to repeat what Hamas did and continue their war fighting against Israel as well. If they're smart, they will learn to be good neighbors, and maybe there'll be a future for the Gazans. Otherwise, God only knows what will be the future of Gaza if those groups morph into another terrorist group that just continues the cycle of evil, unfortunately. And that's my hope.
What can you tell us about the GHF food distribution in Gaza? This new system, instead of UNRWA distributing food to the people, do you know if that is working well? Have you been involved in protecting them militarily? Do you know if it's up and running?
I know of them. I know of their operations, and I know that it's been a failure, and I know that they're not doing very well. Is all I can say.
Yeah,
I think they started.
so,
I think they realized that they bit off more than they could chew,
yeah,
and that's why these
because
militias are taking over. Essentially, they're stepping up instead of.
yeah, because what I've understood also is that Hamas attacks these people who are trying to distribute food because they want full control. And that's so insane that they would attack the people who are actually just trying to distribute food to the local population. And then what is even more disturbing is that the Western society, and especially here in Norway and other countries, are then demonizing Israel for not giving food to the local population. Well,
Yeah.
that is exactly what they're trying to do, but Hamas is the one who is stopping that. Is that frustrating to be on the ground and seeing that, and seeing how the Western countries and the Western media is demonizing Israel?
Brother, just like I said earlier, it's not frustrating if you just tell me to my face that you hate me, if you tell me to my face that you're an anti-Semite, and that you're essentially, maybe you're not a Nazi, but essentially you have the same views that the world would be better off without Jews in it. Just say it. Tell me to my face, be honest, and let's have an honest debate on it. Let's have an honest debate and say, okay, is that true? Is that true? Prove your point. You know, I will not be offended. I really won't. And I think a lot of Israelis are like that too. We're a very open society. Many of us do, as you know, being part of the Jewish community, many of us do have a knee-jerk reaction towards any anti-Semitic actions that we deem as anti-Semitic actions towards us, even when they're not usually the case as well. But we still will react because there is this after so many decades of nations from every religion and culture and whatever turning on us, we do have that as a almost like it's a sensitive area. For me, it's less, right? I'm just a very factual kind of dude. I don't care what the why is. I don't care if you're repeating the evils of the past, but just say it. Just frickin' say it, you know? Nazi Germany told it straight. They didn't hide their anti-Semitic hatred towards the Jews, although they did do it deceptively and they did do it in stages. That is true. But at the end of the day, they were very honest about it. So just be honest with it right now. Get it up front. Let's have the debate. Let's have the discussion. Does the control of the world, do the Jews really control the world? Do they really control the media? Prove it. Prove it. You know, this is my you know, when I'm debating people online, and this is where I know that this is happening, because they're attacking me with this kind of conspiracy nonsense. And the stuff that I'm hearing is just absolute lunacy. So it's like the more we openly talk about it and don't have a Dave Smith who's a Jew and a self-hating Jew at that, who is perpetuating and being the Jew cheerleader of these Jew haters. Yeah, just call it as it is, bro. And then they get away with it, right? They get the Jew pass because they had the Jew guy on the program defending their anti-Semite views, saying it's not anti-Semitism. Well, bro, stick to comedy. I'm not a comedian. I'm a very pragmatic guy or factual dude, and I just call things as I see them. And I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not trying to get ratings. I'm just trying to understand the world that I'm in and see the reactions of the world towards me. And it is extremely offensive that you just won't say it. Just say it, declare it, get out in the air. Let's clean the air, so to speak, with what your real true colors are, and then let's have the debate. If you're right, if you're wrong, and if I'm right or wrong on what I'm doing, and if you have a better solution. If you ask Dave Smith, what should Israel do? He has no answer. If you ask that guy, I think his name's Salim, the other comedian from Egypt, you ask him, what's the solution? And they asked him, one of the podcasters, and I think the two guys in England that had him on the show, they asked him a few times. He wouldn't answer. He was being a selfish turd because they know they don't have to give you the answer. They know they can get away with just saying crap that isn't true and that nobody's going to challenge them on it because nobody cares. Because deep inside, many of you all around the world do have deep-seated hatred against Jews, and you just won't say it. So just come open and say it, and let's have a real debate on these things, and quit criticizing me without giving me an actual counter of what I could be doing different.
What do you think that phenomena is? Because we're seeing those kinds of Jewish groups everywhere in all kinds of countries, these Jewish voices for peace and whatnot, standing there with their Palestinian flags and chanting these slogans like "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," and taking sides against their own people. What do you think that phenomena is?
Honestly, I think it's a mental illness. Again, it's not to be offensive, but because I've met a lot of these people, I've seen a lot of these people, and I've spoken to a lot of these people on protests here in Israel, because again, the counter that I'm going to get is in Haaretz. You don't even know how to say it correctly. It's Haaretz. But in any case, so on Haaretz publications, they say XYZ. Yeah, you're right. It's a Jewish publication. It's an Israeli publication here from the heart of Israel. But even the government of Israel has deemed them to be a threat against the state of Israel, to the point that they've actually pulled their government funding as a media source, because a lot of the media sources in Israel get a certain media funding, so they have a base funding to have their voice, right, to represent their angle of what they want to say, because it's a free country and free press and all that. But imagine in a free country and a free press, we had to actually pull the funding from one of our media sources, that being Haaretz. And that is usually the one that Dan Bilzerian and friends are going to quote. And all I can say is that the people that work there, they're not all like that, by the way. It's just the ones that get these popular, trigger happy, sensationalized media headlines that are demonizing Israel, criticizing Israel very viciously, and just putting fuel to the fire for the Israel haters. Those are the few. I think they're actually not the majority that work there, actually, because I know people from the media here in Israel, and it's actually a mixed batch at work in any of the outlets, by the way. But again, it's the editor-in-chief that greenlights these headlines of the one idiot that works there, that one self-hating Jew that works for that outlet, and allows it. And that's the problem, is that we allow things that are just not truthful. It's not journalistic. It's your opinion. And your opinion is something that I value and I respect, but keep it there. Do not put it out there to the public and make it as fact when you know for all trueness, there's no fact behind what you just said. It's your opinion. In your mind, it might be a fact, but until you've proven it, like you prove any other story that you write, and you have to chase down your leads, and you have to prove, right, the article, or else you're going to get sued, right? They know nobody's going to sue them for it, and that's how they get away with it, by the way. So to me, the folks that are like that, and the ones I've had conversations with, I've learned that many of them, it feels, and I could be wrong, but it feels like they just have a mental illness. They don't have critical thinking. You can't have a conversation with them. You can't talk facts with them, and they just hate on you if you come with a counter opinion. And it's sad, because again, I'm very open, like I said, to any to any critiques, to anything. But in any case, all that said, it's a mental illness and probably a bunch of other things. And I think it's also a certain level of ignorance as well, probably. And then I'll end also with this, that I'm going to have to wrap this up because I have to go back to operations, by the way.
Thank you so much, Doron, coming to us live from the border of Gaza today, and for all your input and your thoughts, and also for your work and dedication, actually working for the IDF, being a sergeant major. Thank you for your dedication and work, and I'd love to have you on the show another time as well.
Henrik, you're an amazing beacon of light in Europe, especially in Norway. You're a huge inspiration to me and to many others, and I just want to thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for this platform that you have stepped up to this calling in this time and season that we find ourselves in. I know this is not something that you have, that this is something that you have been doing for years. Literally, you stepped up to the plate when you saw what's happening, and I just want to thank you, buddy, for being brave. Because for the listeners, you have no clue what bravery it takes to do what Henrik is doing and sticking his neck out on the line, literally, not figuratively, literally, to be able to be this voice for you in Europe and around the world. And brother, I wish you much success, and that you continue to shine light into this darkness that you're seeing in Europe and around the world, brother. Keep up with the amazing work.
Thank you so much for those kind words of support, and Am Yisrael Chai, and thank you for all the listeners and viewers who have been watching today and supporting us. Thank you so much, and goodbye, brother.
Shalom.